I'm able to provide you with the value that I promised you in this. So hopefully you guys are in your decision-making screens. I left these decisions, what you guys had up until year 12. I left those in and didn't reset the data because I think that it's better to see kind of what it's going to look like once you have some decisions made. So I am video recording this, and I am hoping to put this online at some point. I do encourage, though, that you have a piece of paper and a pencil nearby, and I'll try to be good about telling you those things that you may want to write down, because it will be a lot. Okay, so I am in the decision-making screens for a company that I had set up, but never had anybody enroll in this particular company. So this is what I would do. So how I'm going to talk you guys through this is I'm going to assume that maybe this is year 13 in your actual simulation, and how you would go about if you were going to look up what your results were, and then how you would begin to make decisions. So the first thing that I would look at, in addition to, obviously, you'll look to see what your ranking is, but the first thing I always think about is I wonder if I got, what's up with that one? It's not the happy camper. I don't know if it's me or if it's the, seems like it's the thing. I'm going to turn it off. So the first thing that I would do is I would go in and try to see whether I got the market share that I thought that I would. That'd be the very first thing. So go to sales forecast in your, not sales forecast. Go to your footwear industry reports. You can see where I am here in these operating reports. And I'm going to go to market snapshot under the competitive intelligence reports. Does everybody see that? Okay, so when I click on that market snapshot, it tells me exactly how much market share I got for this particular year. So I'm company, who am I? I'm company F. So I got 11.6% of the market share that you can see there. You're going to have an idea. Hopefully you guys I'm going to have you guys doing reports where you're going to kind of know what your market shares hover around. And so you're going to be able to take a look and see, was I higher than I thought I would be, or was I lower than I thought that I would be? So let's take a look at what's up there right now with my 11.6. So this is my company, right? This company F here. So let's look at who had higher market share. So when I look at who had higher market share, we could go to company G. Let's just look at G. Okay, G had 18% and I only had 11.6%. Why did G have so much additional market share from me? What do they have that I don't? So this is G and this is F. What do they have? SQ rating. Okay, so they've got 2 stars above mine in SQ, right? So they're significantly higher than me in SQ. They've got a higher price than me, but obviously their customers were okay with that higher price given their higher stars. If I look at the number of models, who's this is me. Who's better? G's better, right? G had more advertising. So basically what you're doing is you're just trying to get a feel for, man, I thought that we would be in this particular, I thought we would have this particular market share. We either did or we didn't. The other thing that you can take a look at here, I would write this down. I would see where I was in my marketing mix compared to the industry average. Okay, so that difference are these percentages here that are on this side. So the reason why that's really important about that industry average is that your demand I mean, I hate to think about logarithms and stuff, but your demand in the simulation is based on what that industry average ended up being. So it's good to know kind of where you are in terms of what your industry standards are. Okay, so the next thing after and of course I could click through all these different markets, but this is the next thing that I think. So I look at my performance first, then I look at my market share. If you offered private label, I'd look to see whether those were if I ended up getting that bid accepted. But when students come in to me and they say, hey, I'm struggling with the business strategy simulation, I always look for two particular problems. So the next thing I do is look for problems. Did I have a problem? And to me, there are two big problems that you can have. The first problem is you can have a ton of inventory left over. So what's the problem with having a ton of inventory left over in the simulation? Why do I lose money though? Okay, so I make them, but you know, actually what happens is that because I've made these shoes in year 12, what it did was it decreased, because it says economies of scale thing, so it decreased my cost of goods sold. And so actually my margins probably looked a lot better on my income statement than, because those shoes right there that I just made, they don't hit my expenses, right? Because they only hit your cost of goods sold once you sell them. Otherwise, they're logged over on your balance sheet. So what ends up happening with leftover inventory is a lot of people don't even notice it the first year because it really doesn't hurt. It almost kind of helps you in some ways because it lowered your cost of goods. So you might miss that you've got an inventory problem because you don't see it on the performance measures for that year, but it'll hit you big time on the next year. Because then what happens once you carry it over? This is where you get into those extra costs, right? So what are the costs of carrying those shoes over? When I have the warehouse expense of it. What else is a drawback of keeping those shoes another year? Right, the loss of that star, right? And so what happens is it becomes harder and harder. You know, if I made 6-star shoes and I have a ton of inventory left over, then those just went to 5. And so in order to get my combined in a certain warehouse back up to 6, I might actually have to make 7-star shoes to combine them because they take kind of the average of that industry. Does that make sense? Any question? What do you have questions about that I've said so far? Okay, so then where am I going to see whether I have an inventory problem? Yeah, you can find, I think you can find that on your balance sheet. I think you can find it within these you can find it in your reports, like your distribution and warehouse report. But the easiest place for me to find it right off the bat is to go to sales forecast. So I want to show you on sales forecast where your leftover inventory is. I wish this thing were bigger. If I can do that. Yeah. Okay, so if I look at over here, so this is the first screen, by the way, that I do when I get into my decisions. Your remaining inventory is, where is it? Minus. It's minus this inventory carried over from year 12. Okay, so what this is doing right here, this pink section, by the way, for you guys, it's right there, inventory carried over from year 11. So what this whole area is doing is saying, based on this mix right here, and based on this inventory that's left over, this is how many shoes you have to make in branded just to sell to North America. Okay, so let me show you guys over here. So this section right here, I'm saying, okay, so based on all this stuff here, your demand is going to be about this, if all this is correct. You need to have a little bit of extra inventory sitting around in your warehouse. The simulation makes you do that. And you have this many shoes left over from last year. So I only have to make 858, even though my demand's going to be 1.1 million. Does that make sense? So what it does is then, if we look at what these, the percent of my capacity right now, then it's pretty low based on this sales mix. So I have problems. So how many people out there have inventory problems? So if you have double digits, you don't have in any warehouse, you don't have an inventory problem. Because you have to keep a certain number around. But if you have 3 digits, it's not, 150 wouldn't bother me, but once you get into the 200s and the 500s, then that's a problem. So how many of you have more than whatever more than 200 in your inventory? It's okay, it's okay. And so, I've got a problem. She's already telling me. Okay, so this is what happens if you have an inventory problem. You can choose to just sell those shoes in the regular market as your regular. So think about it as Nike's leftover from last year. I go into Dick's Sporting Goods, they're selling them there to me, and I buy them for the same wholesale price. Alternatively, if Nike has some shoes left over because they're last year's stuff, they could sell them at a big discount to clear them out. And so that's where you're going to find like your TJ Maxx's, right? They're out there buying kind of old stuff. And it's to keep Nike. So Nike has kind of a strategic decision to make, right? Is it okay with me if I've got customers out there? Because maybe it hurts my image that they're buying old stuff. Maybe they get the perception that I've got really cruddy shoes. But it's also, maybe I'm not going to make as much money if I discount them. So this inventory clearance right here, right there, that's what you're going to want to use if you do want to clear them. And so this just means they're gone. Like as soon as you save these and they're gone. You don't have to worry about whether or not your discounted shoes will sell. So I can say that I'm going to get rid of maybe just 25% of that. And so what you found was it decreased from, what did it decrease from? From 375. That 25% of that 385 is now gone. But what you can see is that I've lost $6.07 per shoe. $6.07 per shoe. And I've lost a total of revenue of $571 as expense. So I'm not really wild about doing that. So maybe I'll decide that I'm going to keep it. But I can go through these other markets and see what happens. See, I'm losing money on all these shoes that I clear out. Well, not those, but I didn't really have any. Let's see. Okay, so leftover inventory is a problem because it decreases the amount of production demand I have. And what happens if I only have to run my manufacturing plant at 50% capacity? What's the problem with that? Yeah, but I'm paying for my warehouse, for my manufacturing facilities, right? So those costs, that's the scales economy that we've been talking about. So then the shoes that I am making, those 50, they're costing me per pair a fortune because all that overhead is over that 50% of whatever my capacity is. So what would be the best rate of capacity utilization? What makes the best sense if I have all the demand in the world? Demand isn't a problem. What kind of capacity utilization would I want to run at? Yeah, you'd actually want to run at 120%. Why 120? Yeah, because it's still sitting there at night, right? So you can think about this. I mean, when you go and you see companies, big manufacturing plants, they have the night shift, right? Well, the night shift is all about that running at overtime to meet this extra demand. Now, what's a drawback of running in overtime? It does cost you more for your labor for that time because they're getting paid overtime, but the benefits there kind of outweigh. So So we want to try to get our demand up and to balance what our demand is with our capacity. Once it gets really out of balance, then we've got problems. So then I would go to, so my inventory left over was my third problem, right? My fourth problem is cash. Here's a major problem with the simulation. If you run out of cash in year 12 when decisions ran, if you didn't have enough cash on hand, do you know what happens? Yeah, it just automatically takes out a loan for you, and it doesn't even tell you that it took out a loan. So you can imagine, so companies will be thinking that they're doing great, when in reality, they've got these huge loans. So these overdraft loans is like using your credit card, right? So your credit card, let's say, has to be paid back in 1 year, and the interest rate is huge on it, right? So how do we tell if we took out an overdraft loan? So one, it would come up in those operating reports that we talked about, but I can also go to, within the decision screens, I can go to this finance and cash flow. So when you click on finance and cash flow, what you'll see is it'll say principal. If I had to take out an overdraft loan, there would be a number here for my principal repayment, and there would be a number here for my interest payment on my overdraft. Okay, so the problem with the kind of the big problem of you're having to pay that back is sometimes you can you could have taken out a loan, an overdraft loan in year 11 of like $200 million. And so when you're paying it back on a 1-year loan, you pay the whole $200 million back all at one time. So then it becomes kind of impossible to get positive on your cash flow. So let's say that I ran an overdraft loan because I built a facility and I thought that I could finance it with cash, and it ended up that I had a huge overdraft loan that I've got to pay this year. What would be a good thing to do? What if I did that with my house, okay? So I bought my house, I bought it with cash, I thought I could do it, I thought I had the money, I ran out of money, so now I've got I've got credit card debt, but my house is paid for. What would you do in real life? I'd refinance, right? I would take out money on my house. So to refinance that, what you would do, if that's indeed what you wanted to do, is that you would say over here in 10-year bank loan, let's say that I'd taken out a $300 million overdraft loan, then I could put 300 right there, and it should have, did it not? Maybe that's thousands. Yeah, it did add. Okay, so I added then 3 million to this, and so this is where it's going to tell you at the end what your projected cash flow is. So about debt, by the way, so you'll see that 1-year loans have a lower interest rate than 10-year loans, right? So which one's better to take out? What if I wanted to finance why don't I finance my house with a 1-year loan? Principal payment is huge, right? It's a principal is killing me, paying that back. Even if I could pay my whole house off right now, as long as the house, I'm living in it every month, like you guys pay, if you're not a homeowner, you pay rent every month, right? You pay rent every month because you're using it every month. So what happens with these loans is that if I'm using my facility every month, and then I'm paying this principal repayment back, an interest payment, then it's the interest payment that then hits my income statement anyway. So it actually can make, so it makes sense that what you do is you try to time whatever the asset is that you're using the loan for, you time its useful life. Does that sound familiar? Do you remember that from accounting at all? You time its useful life kind of over a similar period as your debt. Because again, you're using it during that time. Okay, so I don't have though this, I don't have a cash flow problem. So then I'm ready to make decisions. So after I figure out how I performed and whether I have problems, then I'm ready to talk to my team. So I'd write on your paper, stage 2. So stage 1 is figuring out the problems. Stage 2, I would say, is figuring out what you want your marketing mix to be. Okay? So what I would do is I'd go back to those screens with the market snapshot, kind of see what my competitors were doing. You can see that if you have companies, that if I think G is my biggest competitor, then I can pull up a company analysis and see what G's been doing over time, or I can just look at a market snapshot of everybody. So I'm going to say, I want to be, what do we want to be? Do we want to be differentiated or do we want to be low cost? Differentiated. Okay, I want to be differentiated. So I'm going to look at the market and kind of get a feel for where I think I should be in the market. So stage 2, what I would do is, as a team, I would have a discussion about how do you think we need to position ourselves with our quality, our models, advertising, our price. Kind of everything that's on this page, but the most important ones are the ones that I just listed. Those are what really drives demand. So I'm going to say, based on this, I want to be differentiated. And what I see is one company has 6 stars and 200 models. One company has 6 stars and 250 models. I'm going to I don't think I can go to 7 stars. I think it'll cost me too much. But what I'll do is maybe I'll go to 6 stars, 300 models. So I'm going to go to so once your group kind of decides, like this is kind of where we want to be, then you want to split off again. And then you want to go to your sales forecast screen, and you want to put in the forecast that I just told you I was going to do. So I'm going to put 6, 300, 6, 300, 6, 300, 6, 300. Okay, and you see the screen's really, really mad at me. I wonder if I can make those go away. What are those telling? Great question. I'm going to save it. So what those are telling me is those are all red. It's telling me you're putting in that you want to have a 6-star shoe and you want to have 300 models, but based on what you're producing right now, you're not doing it. So your sales forecast is going to be wrong. So it's telling me right now, based on the mix I have in here right now, that I would need to run my capacity at 100% based on that marketing mix, if everything were correct. Okay, right? But that 100% and the numbers that they're forecasting, they're not actually going to happen because that's not what I'm producing right now. But I don't care, okay? And by the way, if you notice, although I do think I hit save decision. Oh, it's not. They don't have a year 13, that's why. I am not looking, by the way, at all at this stuff over here right now, okay? Ignore it. Just type in numbers and ignore what's going on over there, because what's happening is these numbers, there's not jiving, right? My sales forecast is not what I'm actually producing, and I'm not distributing in a logical way either. So I'm just ignoring all that. So right now I have, let's say that I leave it at this, okay? So then the next step after the sales forecast would be, so I would write down maybe, are we on stage 3 because you're by yourselves? I do the sales forecast screen first. I deal with my inventory and I deal with my your marketing mix. I would ignore all the red numbers and the numbers on the side, and then I would go to my branded production. So you can see why it's mad at me, right? Because I'm producing, when I go into my production screen, I'm producing 4-star shoes, not 6 stars, and I'm only producing 200 models. So it's going to continue to be mad at me until I increase that to 6 stars. So I'm kind of, 350 is apparently the next best number. So I'm going to do whatever I have to do here just right now with you guys to get up to 6 stars. It's going to cost me a fortune. I don't think I care. For these purposes, that is. Okay, so there is, I just kind of clicked on whatever I needed to get me up to 6 stars, but there's a strategy and a method behind what mix of those items that I changed, what mix you use. So that part I'm not going to tell you the secret on. You should go back though, and you should read about, you should have somebody who's maybe like your manufacturing guru who kind of knows, this is how we're going to get up to a 6 star, because there are different ways that you can get up to a 6 star. There are different ways that you structure your facilities to be able to produce more models. So now I've got my 6-star shoe, but we said that I needed to run my capacity at 100%. Am I running my capacity at 100%? What do you say? No. How do I change it? Okay, great. So regular 100% capacity is this 2,000, right? And then I'm going to run this at my 4,000. It just got mad at me because I had some of that regular capacity. I had it in my private label screen. That's why it did that, but it all changed once I did that. So now we can see, by the way, and this is where I play with it a lot. So this could potentially be a place where on your own, kind of sitting in front of the TV, you could play to try to get your cost of production down. So you can see here, it's costing me, once I put in this 2,000, it's costing me $33.10 per shoe. That's my cost of one pair of shoes manufactured in North America. If I look in Asia Pacific, it's costing me $25.61 to produce one pair of shoes. Make sense? So if I change something like, let me see, I'm going to change, so we have 25.26, right, for Asia Pacific. So I'm going to change and say, well, maybe what I want to do is I don't want to spend 70% on great materials. I'm going to decrease that, and instead what I'll do is I'll increase the amount of money that I spend on styling to make each model more stylish. I still got up to 6 stars, right? But I had to see how it impacted my cost. And so it actually, I'm still producing my 6 stars, but it's costing me more per shoe. So obviously it was better. So you'll find that there are more efficient ways to make these particular shoes. Okay, so we went to branded production. Where are we going to go next? What would you do after you produce them? Yeah, I'd figure out where I'm going to ship them, right? Okay, so I go to my branded distribution page. So in branded distribution, these numbers here at the top, right there and right there, are telling you, based on in that other screen, I put in that I was going to run my Asia Pacific manufacturing at 4,000, right, or 4 million in this case. So I don't know what happens. Some get stuck over in inventory or something. But what it's telling me is I've got, based on that 4 million, I've got 3.6 million in Asia Pacific in my manufacturing facility that I need to figure out where to ship to. I've got the same thing in North America, right? I've got the 1856. So now what I need to do is I need to figure out where I want to ship these shoes to. So since this kind of doesn't make any sense, I'm going to just zero all this stuff out. Okay, so now what we see here, what are these negative numbers here? Can anybody read? These screens are terrible and you guys are probably... Great, because I'm not distributing any shoes, right? So it's saying you need to ship at least 1.3 million to North America. Because right now I've got 0 that I'm shipping there, right? This 1.3 million, that's what it's telling me. 1.6 million here, 1.3, etc. So I know, by the way, so how many do I want to ship exactly 1.6 million? What do I want to ship? I'd be interested in your answers. What would you ship? Would you ship more or less? More? I'd ship more, right? What happens if you ship too little? Then one, you run out of shoes. And what happens when you run out of shoes? Yeah, retailers get mad at you, they leave. And then if you guys look in that market snapshot and you see all those bright yellow numbers that are lit up, that's basically various companies who didn't have enough shoes in the warehouse to meet demand, and so they lost that big yellow number, and it went to other companies. It went to other companies not because anybody really liked their marketing mix, just because they were the ones who were left over. So I kind of aim for these numbers to be around like 100. It'll differ kind of as the semester goes on. You'll kind of figure out what works for you guys in your particular industry. But if I have 100 to 150 left over at the end of the year, I'm not that worried about it. You know, I said 200 is kind of where I start to get worried. So then I've got to figure out if I want to where I want to ship them to. So we got to talk about exchange rates. And so what impacts, so first, what impacts where I ship these shoes depends on two things. One is exchange rates. What's another thing that's going to impact where I'm shipping? So if I'm shipping from Asia Pacific, what's going to impact my decision to supply maybe Latin America from Asia Pacific versus supply Latin America from North America? Okay, my shipping cost, I think they're maybe close to the same around there. There's one more big thing. What do I have to pay when I ship shoes to tariffs, right? So between your exchange rates and your tariffs, you're going to want to develop a distribution strategy, okay? So again, exchange rates and tariffs. So this is something that students can go like the whole semester never get. So let's discuss this. So when I go to, this is my corporate lobby. These numbers right here, okay? See these numbers with the exchange rates? One, they're very erratic. You actually can't, it's not like real exchange rates where you can get a trend on the exchange rate, because what they do is they take a multiplier of how the exchange rate really changed over a week, which is, you know, a really small amount. And then they take that and have that as the percentage. You don't need to know that. All you need to know is that based on exchange rates, that if you ship, so here what we find is if you ship from North America to Europe, Africa, your cost of goods sold is going to go down from that. Remember, what did we say that just the manufacturing alone was 33 or something in North America? But then we have to pay shipping, and then we have to pay, you know, there are other things. But that cost of getting that good there is going to go down by 2.34%. So let's take a look on, let me show you how this looks on your income statements. Let's go to operating reports, and we can look at income statements. And so you can see here in year 12, what happened, this exchange, where is it? Those are my internets, but it's pretty much the same. So my exchange rate adjustment up, but that's for my revenues. What is it for my cost? There it is. Okay. So there is on, anyway, the point that I wanted to show you was just that this is where you can see, kind of from a per unit perspective, how that change in the cost is impacting your margin. So what would happen then if I shipped my shoes from North America to Europe, Africa? We've got this negative 0.46. So is that going to have a positive impact on my margins or a negative impact on my margins? Positive, right? Because your cost of goods sold is going down. Now at the same time, what you saw, what somebody over here told me to look up in my revenues, at the same time what you saw was the exchange rate impact on your revenues, right? So up here we have exactly what that increase, once we transfer that revenue into in dollars, what that impact's going to be. So right now, where is the most favorable exchange rate for the U.S.? What country? Asia Pacific, yeah, absolutely. So, so it's saying that we're going to have higher revenues based on once we change those yen into dollars. Okay, so that's one of your decisions. And then, of course, you'll have to read and figure out about your kind of where you want to ship based on tariffs. I'm not going to tell you that either. Okay, but then I go down to distribution. So let's see. I'm going to start out and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to ship it's 140, okay. I'm going to ship, where do we want to ship the North America? Do we just want to leave North America shoes in North America? Yeah? That sounds good? Okay. So I'm going to put maybe 1,500 here. Okay? So you can see that this number down here turned to 1,500. It's red. Why is it red? Yeah, it's still mad at me, right? Okay, so where are we going to put the other 356 pair? Where do you want to ship them to? Asia? Okay. 356. Okay, so then I can take my Asia Pacific. Let's just, then if that's all that's left, then I just distribute these out. Okay, so based on those numbers, I'm not making enough and shipping enough to meet my Latin America demand. So what should I do? I've got two choices. What can I do?
Also, where you ship that in.
Okay, and even if I do that though, even if I took 100 and put it there, I'm still going to be down about, right? I mean, I could make these maybe a little bit more even. What would that be? 456. So what about if I go to my production screen? What do you see there?
Overtime?
Yeah, I've got overtime. So I could produce more to meet that demand. What else could I do? Okay, I could build a manufacturing plant. It would take me a year to do that. You know what else I could do? If I've got that much demand in Latin America, maybe I just want to, I'm going to go here, wholesale marketing. Okay, so wholesale marketing is then, so the next thing that I would do, by the way, as I'm distributing, is I'd go to my wholesale marketing page. I used to not use this. I thought it was the same information that was in my sales forecast and thought it was stupid. And then I realized I love this screen. So what this screen is telling me right now is how much money I'm making on each pair sold in each market. And it's telling me what my market share is in each market. It's a great place for information. So one, what markets tend to really like me? Yeah, Asia Pacific really likes me too. I mean, part of that 8 point whatever is because I don't have shoes there to actually sell, so I'm only getting 8%. But what if what I did to decrease some of that excess demand was I just erased, since I'm losing $2.80, so this is big, right? I'm losing money on every pair of shoes that I sell in Latin America. So maybe if I just increase my price, maybe I get rid of my rebates. I do some things to kind of drive down my demand, but at the same time that I'm driving down my demand, I'm also increasing my profit margins in this market, right? So now I'm making $11.01, and I've got, anyway, so that's, by the way, not probably what I would do. I mean, I'm not really entering decisions that I would make, but these are situations that you're going to face, that you're going to have, like, what do I do? I've got too much demand. Well, I mean, you can always decrease your advertising, or you can increase your price, or do some things that kind of drive demand down a little bit, and you'll lose a little bit of market share, but you'll make, you know, those higher margins. So let's see. Okay, so this is the screen essentially where you're gonna say, let's say that I want to, so I've got 293 that are left over in Asia Pacific. So if I want to figure out how to get the biggest bang for my buck in Asia Pacific, because I do want to increase my market share maybe above this 15.6%. So we have, here I'll point, I know guys, I'm getting tired too. Let's see. Okay, so I'm making a total of 10.3 million in Europe, Africa, based on these decisions that I have entered. Okay, did you guys see that? I'm making this 10.335 million, and my margins are 6.67. So let's see. I'm going to increase maybe my advertising. What's going to happen to my margins, most likely, when I increase my advertising?
Then accounting for the advertising boost that you're going to get?
Okay.
Or are you just accounting for the expense?
I am, so on the margins alone, so that's a great question. So you're going to be kind of all things held equal, then it's going to hit my my margins negatively, right? It's going to, but what could happen to then that 10.3? It could go up, right? Because I'm selling more of those shoes, that 10.3 million. So I'm going to increase my advertising here. And what happened is that while I increased my market share, I lost money overall in that market. So is that what I had before? So you can see that anytime that I raise my advertising there, that even though I might be increasing the sales of my shoes a little bit, I'm not increasing them enough to make up for that additional marketing expense. So this is where you determine that. Okay, where do we want to go next? So I've got these things distributed. So let's say that I was perfectly happy with my results over here. I'm not. I need to go back to my sales forecast and make sure those red numbers went away. They didn't go away. So we got to figure out why they didn't go away. To figure out why they didn't go away, I'd go back to my distribution, and that'll tell me right here your forecasted versus your achieved. Forecasted, achieved, forecasted, achieved. So it's telling me why those numbers aren't correct. So first of all, somebody tell me why I have a 5-star shoe here when I'm shipping all these 6-star shoes to North America. Right here. Why do I have a 5-star shoe there, even though I'm shipping 6-star shoes there? Yep, you got it. It's because of that inventory that's left over, right? So I had this 375 that I guess used to be, what was it, 4 stars, I think. So now they're 3 stars. And so you calculate the way that, and it does it for you, but just to give you an idea of how it's calculating, it's just like your GPA, right? So it takes your total inventory, and it's saying 380, whatever portion that is 3 stars, and then whatever portion that additional that's new is 6 stars. So then it takes kind of the cumulative average. Make sense? Okay, so that's how they're coming up with those 5 stars. So then I could choose to go back over here and just lower my stars to 5. I think over here, didn't they say I had more? 350, 350, 346. By the way, if I didn't change these, it would still run. This is just my forecast. It doesn't actually impact what actually happens. It's just making me kind of have a better idea of how much money I'm going to make.
Do you get anything for the bullseye award? Or is it
Yeah, you do. You do. So there are advantages of doing a good job. A point or two, like every year that you get it, but it's added to your final grade, not that particular year. Okay, so now, so if you were a company and you weren't gonna, I'm not gonna build a plant, I'm not gonna bid on celebrities, we can go over to private label. Let's go over to so the way private label works, so over here in, all of this was just the branded stuff, right? So then I have to figure out what do I want to produce in private label. So when I click on the private label operations screen, these boxes that have it's that leftover manufacturing capacity. So remember how in branded production I had that I was gonna, there's a 2,000 right there, and I put 2,000, but then I had the 400 left over. You remember? Yes, maybe. So all this is the same production. It's the same manufacturing facilities that are shown here. So it's just showing me that based on, I know I don't have regular because I've maxed that out, but I do have this overtime. So so if I produce private label shoes, if I offer a bid on private label shoes, one of the things that's a misconception sometimes is that if I say, yeah, okay, I'll offer shoes in this private label market, I'm going to offer 400 here, I'm going to manufacture 800 here. Then I'm going to offer up these bids. If these bids are accepted, then great, I make the shoes and I sell them. What happens if the bid is not accepted? What happens to that 400 in capacity? It just sits there. You don't make anything. So some people think that this adds to their inventory problems, but it doesn't. It's like you only make it if they accept your bid. Otherwise, that capacity just sits unproductive. So then what's my minimum? How many stars do I have to have it in order to get my bid accepted? 4, right? Should I make 5? No. Making 5 does nothing for me at all. They do not care. It's like, I know one class already told us, like with my Kroger peas example, it's like Kroger does not, as long as they are not mushy and horrific, they do not, you just have to have it above this particular standard. But the reason why they're going to have those on the shelf is to sell them at a discount. So if you want to give me as Kroger really fantastic peas, that's fine. I'm marketing them as my inexpensive peas that meets this minimum level. So all they're looking at is, does it meet the minimum? Does it meet the minimum threshold? And then after they conclude that, then what do they look at to decide what they're going to buy? Price, right? The price that you offer. Okay, so I'm going to say here, I would normally do research, but I'm not going to right now. I'm just going to put my 384 here. I'm going to put my 756 here. I sent it to North America. Don't ask me why. It doesn't make any sense. But so then, if I say assume my bid is accepted and I click there, then you can see how much money I'm making off of each private label shoe, right? So I'm making these numbers off of each private label shoe, and then this is the total additional revenue that my company is going to get if those were accepted. So one of the things that you'll see over here is that these numbers jumped up, right? Because I said assume that they're accepted. I'm kind of a doomsdayist. So I might say, yeah, I'm going to offer them, but I'm not going to assume that they're accepted because I want to see what the worst case scenario is for my company. So I know that the worst case is this 1.62. Yeah.
Where do you go to see if they were accepted?
Okay. Great. And this is how you develop your strategy, right? So you go to those market snapshots. Where is it? Over here. And market snapshot. So if you see down below, you'll be able to see what was offered in this market and what was accepted and the prices, and then you'll be able to see how much of this demand was satisfied. So demand was 1.5 million, but all that was offered was 935,000, and then I guess some of those weren't, this is where I'm getting at, and then some of those apparently were not, they must have been 3 stars, yeah, there. So really, they only sold 750,000. So there's all sorts of excess demand for private label in that particular market. But this is where you can kind of begin to see, like, what do I think a bid would be? Like, maybe it's okay with me if I'm the 3rd bid accepted. You know, I'll have a higher price, a bid price, because I think that we just will never get to a point where we satisfy demand. Or maybe it's really competitive and I know that I'm gonna lose my skin if I don't sell a good number of shoes in private label. Okay, so after you do that, then the next step, I would write this down. So we did wholesale marketing, private label, then I would go to finance and cash flow. So based on doing everything that I just have in, I'm going to have leftover cash at the end of the year of $12.7 million. Right? So let's say it was $53.7 million. Are my shareholders happy if I just sit on that 53? What do they want me to do with that 53 million? Give it to them. Or do something that makes the value of their stock increase. So if you've got that 53 million, maybe you want to invest it in new facilities or upgrades to your facilities, or you get the gist. I'm moving on. However, otherwise, maybe what I want to do is I want to offer a dividend. So there is something that in your manual that says that stockholders like to get a dividend. They've been getting a dividend, and they have expectations about dividends. So you can see I just offered a $1.10, and you can see what happened to my cash. It went way too low because it's telling me now I have a high potential for an overdraft. So maybe I'm just going to leave it at, maybe I'm going to give them a 50-cent dividend. I can also repurchase stock here, and then I've already told you about doing a bank loan. This is also the location where if I did have negative cash flow because I did, like maybe I built a facility, and so by the time I did that, I would come over here and it'd say negative, big negative number, because it's assuming you paid all of it out of cash. Well, the way that you'd finance it is you'd either put a number into the loan for taking out a loan, or you could even issue more shares of stock to make some money there. So it's only at this point that then I would go to my corporate citizenship, and then I would make decisions based on corporate citizenship. So they kind of I think they put this stuff way out of order. I mean, think about it. If you owned a part of if you were a shareholder in a company and they gave a ton of money to charity and then they had negative cash flow and your stock price dropped, would you be unhappy? Yes, you'd be very unhappy. So I think you want to consider those corporate citizenship decisions at the very end. Okay, it is 2 o'clock. I said that I would stop there. I'll talk maybe at a later date about buying and selling capacity in celebrities. Yeah?
On the financing